Okay, so whether you know or not, guitar has its own system of reading notes. Of course, you can read notes, you know, like any other instrument on piano or any other instrument, you can actually read the notes and play them. Although that's generally done with, say, classical guitar or jazz. Now, if you're playing rock, it's got its own system. It's called tablature, guitar tablature. You can use it for bass too, bass tablature. Now, it's a lot easier than reading notes, I think, but it has its flaws too, right? So it's a lot easier because, you see, if you can see it down there, we have the lines, right? Line, 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 line. 6 of them, 6 strings, right? Now, the only confusing part is that the bottom is the 6th string. Okay, it's not the first string. So the bottom's the biggest string, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now, again, that's easy enough, right? And then the even easier part is that the things that go on the strings are going to be numbers. And the numbers represent the fret. So it makes it pretty easy that way, right? The only flaw is it doesn't really give any rhythmic value or anything, right? So, you know, if you see a music, like a sheet with music on it, you usually see, say, a quarter note with it, which is worth 1 beat, or an 8th note, which is worth a half. Where with tablature, it doesn't have any of that. Okay, but let's go back to the good points of it. Again, now we've got the lines at the bottom, or the lines from the bottom to the top, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then the numbers, again, represent the frets. So why don't we try, before we start, we're going to maybe do a couple songs in this lesson, right? Or little riffs of songs. But first, let's just get some random notes here and see if you can try reading them yourself, okay? So if you see that first note there, right? We'll try this one together. You see it's not on the bottom line. Remember, the bottom line is the 6, right? It's on the top. That's the first, which is going to be the smallest string, right? The first string. And you see the 5 represents the 5th fret. So again, we're on the first string. We're going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to play that note. Now, the other thing that the tab doesn't offer usually is fingering, right? So you're going to have to sort of play around with it and try to think of what the best finger to put on that fret is. And you might have to change it later on. But again, it just tells you the string that it's on and the fret. So if we take a look at the next one, you see we have a 0, right? We have a 0 on the second string. So what we're going to do is find the 2nd string and play it open. Okay, easy enough. The next one now is the 2nd fret. You see the 2 on the 5th string. So see if you can find that one there. It's on, again, like I said, the 5th string, 2nd fret. Count 2. And there's our next note. Let's see if you can find this one and figure this one out without my help. So I'll give you a sec to figure it out. So I don't know if you got it yet. If you didn't, maybe you can put it on pause, and you can do that for the remainder of the notes, so you can see if you can get it on your own, right? But what it is going to be on the 4th string. You see, if we're counting from the top, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4th fret. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the next one. The 3rd fret on the 3rd string. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now the next one's a tricky one. It's on the biggest string, and we're going to count all the way to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. On the 6th string. See these dots here at the side of the guitar? Yours should have them too. Use those as reference points. See, I'm all the way up here at 10, right? I don't want to have to count that every single time. So you see what we have here is we have a dot on 3, 5, 7, 9, and 12. Now yours might be a little bit different, but you're probably going to have at least 5, 7, 9, and 12. And if you memorize that, like I said, we're on the 10th fret. You see how we're going to say, okay, well, if I know this is 9, the next one up is going to be 10, and I don't have to count every time. So those dots are very helpful. Let's see if you can figure this next one out. It's a piece of cake compared to the last one. So that was on the 1st string, 1st fret. Now if we go to the next note, 3rd fret, 3rd string again. And then the last note, remember the 0 represents no fingers, open, right? And that's going to be on the 5th string. Okay, so now that we've got that little boring exercise out of the way, let's try a song maybe, right? So let's try Come As You Are by Nirvana. Okay, so If you take notice there, right, we're only going to be playing on 2 strings. We're going to be playing on the 6th string and the 5th string. What I like to do when I'm checking out tab, especially because I need to think about what fingers I want to use, I like to look at the whole line or the whole song, right, or riff, and really try to think about things that I can sort of eliminate to make it a little bit easier. I know I'm not going to be playing the first 4 strings, 1, 2, 3, and 4 now. I'm only going to be playing strings 6 and 5. I also see that I don't have a whole lot of stretching to do. I'm only going to be going up to the 2nd fret, right? So, but let's start note by note. Now we first have 2 zeros, right, on the lowest line, which was the 6th string. We're going to play that 2 times. Now the next note you see is on the same string, but on the 1st fret. Now the next note is on the 2nd fret of the 6th string. You see, it doesn't tell you what finger to use, but I'm not going to use my 4th finger. Why would I do a weird stretch like that? I'm not going to use my 3rd finger. There's still a weird little stretch. Why don't I use my 2nd finger, which is just sitting there ready to go, right? So remember, I have 0, 0, 1, 2. Now if you take a look at the next note, now we're going to be on the 5th string, open. Now we go back to the 2 again, so why don't I just leave that finger there? If I lift up, it's going to sound a little choppy, and I'm just making it easier or harder on myself, right? So watch. 0, 0, 1, 2, open, back to 2, open, 2. You see, again, we can keep that finger there. The more you start reading tabs, you can really start seeing these little shortcuts that makes your life a lot easier as a guitar player. So now we're back up to the 2, right? So if I play it, I'm going to play the 2 again. Remember, 6th string. I always like to see if it's on the same line. I don't even have to question what string it is. I know it's on the same one. It's not going anywhere, right? Because then this next note's 1 on the same string, and then open on the same string, right? So if I play it, now the next note, again, is going to be on the 5th string. And then we're going to go back to open twice, back to 2 on the 5th string. So hopefully by now, again, maybe it's a little hard for you to play the actual song, the riff, but hopefully by now you understand how to read that, right? Remember, you first look at the line, and then you look at the number. Don't try to do both at the same time at first. Just try to separate the notes and really just go one step at a time. What string is it on? What fret is it on? Okay? Now that's for single note stuff. But there's also going to be stuff that we're playing more like a chord, like the stuff you learned before, right? Now let's step up though, little by little. So let's not do a full chord first. Let's do another song. Let's do T&T by AC/DC. So you see, my first note is not going to be a note anymore. It's a little bit of a chord. It's a power chord, which is going to be something that you're going to be learning next too. So maybe you can try to go to that next lesson next. Okay, so the first one we have is on the string 6 and 5, right? So on the, again, let's take these notes just separate, one by one, okay? On the 6th string we have 0, okay? But do you see the next note is right above it? That means that you're actually going to play them at the same time. You're not going to play them separately, so you have to get them both down before you start playing. So 6th string is open. Now the next one is on the 5th string. You can see, right, the 2nd line from the bottom, and it's going to be on the 2nd fret. So you see, I set up my finger here, and I'm actually going to play them both at the same time. Right? So it's more like a chord from what we learned before, right? It kind of looks like almost like an E minor chord. But you see that there's no zeros for everything else, so we're only strumming those 2. If they wanted you to strum everything else, it would say 0, 2, 0, 0, 0, 0, and so on, right? But since it's just those 2, those are the only notes you play. Okay, now the next note is going to be just a note, which we know how to play, right? 3rd fret on the 6th string, the lowest line. So if I play it from the beginning, all right, now the next note, you see, is another chord, right? We have the 5th string open now, and then the 4th string we have the 2nd fret. I'm going to put my first finger there, right? So now what we have is 3 three notes. We have two chords and one note. Right? And then if we continue, there's nothing new, right? That's why I like to look at the whole tab. How many different chords or notes do we have there? It's three. And then we're just repeating them or reordering them. So if I take it from the top, back to 3, back to the chord, this is the second chord that we played, back to 3. All right, so if I put it all together, so at this point, again, I'm not expecting that you're able to play the riff all the way through in time, quick, and everything. It's just a matter, I just want to make sure that you understand how to read the tab so you can start building, right? So the last thing that we're going to go through here with the tab is, what if we do have a really large chord? Let's pick one of the chords that we've learned in one of the previous lessons, right? If we want, say, a G major, but instead of writing a G major, they show it to you in tab, right? So what we'd have here is everything is going to be lined up on top of each other, right? So I'm going to have, first, to see from the bottom, I have 3. Again, at this point, maybe I don't know what fingers to put down. Maybe I put my pinky there, right? And then the next note is going to be the 5th string, 2nd fret. And I'm just thinking, oh, what fingers am I going to put there? I'll put my 3rd finger there, right? And then we have 0, 0, 0, right, on strings 4, 3, and 2. And then when we get to the 1st string, we have to play the 3rd fret. Now, I'm sitting here realizing I can't do that with the fingering that I've chosen, right? So I'm going to have to reorder the fingers that I've chosen there, right? So maybe on the 6th string, maybe I'll put my middle finger there, and then I'll put my index on the 2nd fret of the 5th string. Now we have those open strings, right? And then on the 1st string, we can get that reach, the 3rd fret. And again, you're just going to play them all together because they're right on top of each other. Okay? So again, it doesn't tell you how long you're going to hold that chord. It doesn't tell you what fingers to use. You're going to have to use your own imagination for that. Now, the last thing too, and let me give you one little tip here. Sometimes you might have a G major there, right? But instead of playing it all together, they want you to do what's called arpeggiating it. So the way that you're going to have to sort of really get good at reading this tab to realize that that's what's going on. If you take a look at that tab right now, right? You see it says 6th string, 3rd fret, and then 5th string, 2nd fret, 4th string open, 3rd string open, 2nd string open, and then 1st string, 3rd fret. You see they're all the same numbers, but you see they're not on top of each other, so that's separate, right? You're going to play each one separate. But again, if you weren't aware of the fact that it is a G major, you'd probably play it like, right? And make it a lot easier or harder on yourself as well as not sound as good. So just always be prepared for what's coming up next in the tab. Okay? Now that you've got the chords all down and you understand how to read tabs, you're definitely ready to try to take on one of these cool songs we have on our site, right? So why don't you try something like Californication or something like that? It's got open chords as well as reading tabs. So try one of those, or Let It Be is another great one. Open chords as well as we've got some tabs on it too. So good luck. You definitely got some good tools now to play some really cool tunes.